Hello guys, it's Stephen here back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about Phil Foden. Yep, I was sat there minding my own business today when I saw these crazy quotes going around from Pep Guardiola about not selling him for 500 million euros, even as high as that. So I'm going to discuss that in a little bit of detail today, but I want to say thank you as ever to OneFootball for sponsoring this channel and helping this channel grow. It's an awesome app, and they're going to be helping me as well for the next few months, so make sure you download it in the link in the description below, because I love OneFootball. I'm the biggest advocate that you will find. Thank you, OneFootball, for being absolutely amazing. Go download it. It's great. You get news all the time from Manchester City. But today, we're talking about Guardiola doing his very Guardiola thing as well. Guardiola basically is prone for a statement, a big, bold statement. We all got to remember such quotes as Phil Foden being the best player, his best talent he's ever coached. He also said that Gundogan is one of Manchester City's best ever signings, all this kind of stuff. He does like to exaggerate. He'll sometimes say like the most rudimentary of like 3-0 victories or something like that is the best team performance ever and stuff like that. He does this. So my initial reaction when I saw this quote was right, okay, so when was that quote from? Because if you don't know, basically at the moment, Pep Guardiola's got, someone's writing a new book about Guardiola, and obviously when you write a book, the quotes aren't exactly always dead recent. So I thought, when is it from? Because that obviously tells us a lot about the player, how valid those quotes still are at the moment, because a lot of quotes are leaking currently from this book, as is part of the press that comes with a new book being launched. But one thing we can learn from the quotes is obviously this was after he signed the new contract, because I'll read the quotes out for you now. 1 second, let me just quickly find them. Where have they gone? I've accidentally gone off it. I'm an idiot. I should make notes of these first, shouldn't I? He said he's the only player that can't be sold on any circumstances. The only one, not even for 500 million euros. He said Phil's going nowhere. Phil is City. We won't be signing anywhere else for that position. When David Silva leaves, we know exactly who our new magician will be. And he also said we didn't give him a contract by accident. So the contract by accident bit basically means it's post-December. When David Silva leaves, but you would think would be post-June, because that's when David Silva announced that he was leaving Manchester City. Unless Guardiola was just talking generally about David Silva leaving at some point in the future when he said that. All we know is that within the last 9 months, at some point, probably a little bit more recently, that Pep Guardiola said to someone, probably the people writing this book, that he's that important to Manchester City, which is absolutely huge, of course. Now, this is naturally, during the international break, has started a lot of narrative based around Phil Foden and Guardiola's quotes, because it's actually made back pages, because there's nothing going on, other than the Rebecca Vardy stuff, which is absolutely hilarious. Other than that kind of stuff, which is quite funny, nothing's happened really. So people have been debating whether this is all just lip service. People have been debating whether he should be in the first team, get into first team football, and whether Guardiola can keep making quotes like that if he's not going to play very often. And I'm kind of somewhere. My initial reaction was cynicism. I'm not going to lie. I think Guardiola says a lot of things because he's very emotional. I think he's prone to exaggeration sometimes. I think for what it's worth, if someone offered 500 million euros, I think Sheikh Mansour would accept it, because why wouldn't you? It's a world record transfer fee. So I don't really believe that for 1 second. I believe it's like I do. It's dramatic though. It's a dramatic overreaction for the sake of attention. It's like the way someone goes, "Oh, I'll climb Everest for you." Like most people actually probably wouldn't. You know, I'll take a bullet and like. I'd go to the moon. Most people actually wouldn't do these things. Like, people like to exaggerate for, dramatic tension, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of that really, because I'm pretty certain if someone offered a world record fee for Phil Foden, we probably would accept it. I mean, what he's really saying though is this is how much he means to the club in general. Like, his value doesn't have a value, even though it probably does actually have a value. His value is more than that. He's about a guy who symbolises what it means to be at this club. As a Manchester City fan, and I think Pep actually does believe that. I actually believe, even though he's prone to exaggeration, even though he probably knows he's exaggerating, I do believe actually that Pep does value Foden. I do believe that he sees him as critical. At the same time, I also don't think he thinks he's ready as he'd say he is. I think there's nothing wrong with that, of course. I think maybe if thinks he's got a lot to learn, and he still feels like he can trust, understandably, the senior players such as David Silva, Bernardo, Gundogan, and Kevin De Bruyne a lot more. And that's fair. I mean, we are reaching now, I think, a tipping point, especially given recent results where people are starting to really push the Foden angle. And that's understandable. You've also got to consider, like, obviously recently we've seen a lot of youth players make their name themselves in the Premier League. Arsenal doing really well with that. You got looks of Willock there doing pretty well. Then Chelsea obviously are the extreme example with the likes of Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Tomori, all these lots getting loads of chances. And as a result, there's a lot of pressure on Manchester City, particularly given the money that we spent and given the fact that the one question we haven't really answered yet is the academy thing. Given all that and look at all this kind of stuff and given his talent, there's a lot of pressure on Manchester City to use him. And I've always, if you ever watch this channel, if you watch this channel and you follow me on Twitter, I've always been pretty critical about our youth integration in general. I think there's a lot of times when we're overly cautious, and I think Guardiola has changed a little bit over the years in terms of how much you can use players and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's quite as willing to throw a young lad in always. And I think sometimes he has been too cautious with Phil Foden. Having said that, I still believe he plans to use him. That quote about we will buy no one to replace David Silva is Phil Foden. That's a very big quote because that will be thrown in his face if that happens. If David Silva leaves at the end of the season, presuming none of Gundogan, Bernardo, Kevin De Bruyne leave as well, and we go and buy someone, all we're doing is putting Phil Foden back again. That's where people will pull him up on that, and I'll be frustrated. I'll be sad if you go and sign someone in the summer and don't promote Phil Foden. I'll be genuinely frustrated by that because what's the fucking point? Genuinely, what is the point with that? And at some point, we are going to have to just give him some game time. I'm not going to start an anti-Ilkay Gundogan kind of thing here, but I just don't think he's quite as effective at number 8 as he can be at times. And we've all seen the discussions over the past week, the discourse post the Wolves game about David Silva and Ilkay Gundogan not being good playing together when they're in the 3-8 role. And I think there's the times when we've got someone as talented as Phil Foden, a guy who averages or scores a goal last season based on every 120 minutes despite barely playing football. He's a goal scorer and he gets assists. I think it's frustrating, especially when he's one of our own. We all like to think that in football, when we're kids, that one day we could be a footballer too. And for many of us, I mean, like 99.999% of the world, that is never going to happen. And Phil Foden is a great example of what it means to be a fan and support your club, because you all want to live vicariously through someone like Phil Foden. And myself, I've been quite open about my feelings towards academy players. I love seeing academy players break through because it means more. Football is great when you sign a Joao Cancelo or a Rodri. They're great fun, but eventually you do get a bit numb to it. I can't get too excited always about signing another £50 million player because it's well, yeah, okay, it's cool there. But it's it eventually gets a bit numb. It's fun, it's great, it's interesting, but it doesn't have the same... You don't get goosebumps from it. You don't get that same sense of ownership that you get from when you see a young player come through that lives and bleeds this club. Phil Foden is actually a Manchester City fan. He went to the games as a kid like we did. He wore the shirts as a scrawny little child like we did. He is a club that he's a guy who sat in the stands and celebrated as we scored a goal. He is literally one of us. And that connection to the club, it gets more out of the players. It definitely does. And more importantly, it gets more out of the fans. The players react to the fans because they were one of them, and the fans react to the player because they want to be one of them, and they realise that when they do that, kiss the badge and all that kind of stuff, they know they actually mean it. And there's nothing better than watching a player that you can relate to score a goal and actually celebrate with intensity is real. Because when players say a lot of stuff about caring for the club, often you think, well, yeah, I know you probably do to some level, but on a surface level, not really deep down, because why would you? Why would some random kid from Spain who moved to us for loads of money actually care about the club really past the surface level? I'm sure they will in time, but I can almost certain even someone like Vincent Kompany, as much as he loves Manchester, as much as he's Mr. Manchester and Zabaleta was, it still doesn't mean as much to the club as someone like Phil Foden, who's grown up and supporting. It can't possibly, because that is literally been his life since he was a baby. He's been indoctrinated in that. It's the same reason Vincent Kompany wanted to go back to Anderlecht. It's the same reason I'm sure... loads of clubs, loads of players, even Aguero wants to go back to Independiente when he starts again, because they have this attachment to their clubs as a kid. And Phil Foden's club as a kid, and the club he supported is Manchester City. I think at some point we are reaching critical mass, and Guardiola can keep making statements like this, but at some point he's going to have to start showing that these players that are from the academy that are talented, like Phil Foden, can actually get the minutes. I have been a little bit... I think he should have got more minutes so far. I will say it is only a few games into the season. I do admit that the injuries will keep piling up at some point. I'm sure they will. And at some point, we're going to play during the winter months, and we're getting to that point now when games are coming thick and fast and players are getting tired and it gets niggly. We're going to have to start playing Phil Foden. We can't keep playing David Silva every single weekend. We're going to need that energy. We're going to need that natural, boundless enthusiasm. And to be honest, you can't really do much worse than some of the players when they're having an off game. I like these quotes. They're good quotes. I'm a bit cynical as to when those quotes actually happen, because when they happen chronologically, it is quite important to how much you can put the faith in these quotes, because they could have happened like back in March or something like that, February last year, where things could have changed since then. Guardiola is an emotional man, but he isn't going to change for absolutely anyone. He will stick to his decisions regardless of what he said like 6-7 months ago. You might decide last week that Phil Foden isn't quite level. He might not play him. That's just a guess, but the fact that he said something else 7 months ago isn't going to change him now. At the same time, that's just me guessing. I do believe Guardiola has a big plan to Foden someday, but eventually. And we can only I don't think we're abusing his faith or anything like that, because he is only 19 years old. But eventually, at some point, we're going to have to stop having all this lip service and actually use these players, because Phil Foden is fantastic. Those quotes are interesting, but I think in general, treating them with a healthy dose of cynicism, sadly, is a sensible thing to do, because I've been burned far too many times from these kind of, hyperbolic quotes. Like they are an over-the-top exaggeration, but I think they mean well. Guys, let me know what you make of those comments and those quotes from Guardiola in the comments below. They are crazy. Also, tomorrow I am going to do a video with Sam Lee as well. He's back on my channel for another long discussion, so let me know any comments you've got, any questions you've got for Sam in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all the usual stuff, and I will see you very, very soon.